to avoid notes. Now, I don't mean entirely, but don't read them. Have them available, refer to them, but you lose your contact with your jury by reading from your notes. And you can certainly use notes in cross-examination or direct examination of witnesses. I'm amazed that all of you did not appear to be nervous in the least, and either it was well hidden or what, but you are to be commended, perhaps by the number of trials that you've been through. At this time, you're well seasoned. I have nothing further to offer at this time. I will, Mr. Connor, read the scores, and the panel will be available to you for any critiques.
Thank you, Judge. Before I announce the scores, I'd like to thank the scoring panel for their cooperation and their time this morning. And they had a really good job. And I'd also like to thank very much Judge Randall for her efforts, and I think they all deserve a big round of applause. One more point, I'd like to recognize the teacher coaches. Without whom these two teams could not have been here. Chuck Chamberlain, High School and Billings. Would the attorney advisors please rise? Bridget Alford.
And Vince Quattrini.
The attorney advisors are also very important. This is a very technical, law-related education program, and without their technical expertise, the rules of courtroom decorum and evidentiary rules that the students face are very difficult to handle and have a very valuable role. The decision of the scorekeepers was very close, extremely close. In terms of votes, they voted 5-4, and the total point score difference was 1.57. And the winning team is the Plaintiff High School. You're all to be very much commended for your efforts. We'd like to see you all back next year. And thank you very much for participating in this first annual statewide mock trial competition. We hope to make this competition an institution in the future. And we'd like to encourage your continued participation. You all have a very, very big future in the law, every one of them. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Before we leave, I'd also like to thank Brian Hauser from the Pennsylvania Bar Institute, who volunteered to be here last night tonight to be here.
come testifying, then what he's paid to do is their reason. And he will continue if they're witness law. I just say, might go over that.
It sounded okay. Sounded good.
One thing that we all try to do is be so polite. How do you polite? Your Honor, please, sir, please, ma'am. A lot of times, be careful you don't, when you're cross-examining a witness, don't thank that witness who just said something untrue. There was one statement where one of the witnesses was asked, one cross-examination came back, that did not come out favorably to the plaintiff, and the plaintiff's counsel said, thank you very much. You don't want to thank the witness for him. You didn't answer if you want. Just go to anything else, but don't be feeling something to it was very good comparing the Kennedy analysis of the cost. That was very well done. Juanita Price was an excellent witness. And the question was very good. The closings, I think, were probably something we should all be working on for how many months. They were excellent. They were very clear, they were very well organized, and I thought both of the questions were just outstanding, and you really should be very good. So I have no other comments today. I will answer any questions. I thank you. This is very perform magnificently, and I thank you all for this, as you continue.
Way back. They're going to have a way back. Kids are good.
Tonight I have all the team members up here for just a real quick meeting. I want to go over a couple of things with you. The trial is being videotaped, and these small microphones are hooked up to our video cameras. And all rise. Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia County is now in session. The Honorable Marion McIntyre presiding. This is the case of Arnold Joseph versus Society Hill Towers Homeowners Association.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, then Mr. Jury?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel. May it please the court to introduce myself. My name is Carl Coe, and these are my colleagues, Gladys Dayu and Phoebe Chen. We represent the plaintiff, Annette Joseph. We are here to prove that our client, Mrs. Joseph, was illegally discriminated against by the Society Hill Towers Homeowners Association. We know that in 1977, the Society Hill Towers converted from an apartment dwelling to an adults-only condominium. In June of 1982, the plaintiff's daughter, Frances Joseph Pesco, moved away with her husband, Andy. After her husband's tragic death, Ms. Pesco and her son, Edward, moved back into the complex. We also know that on October 15, 1985, 10 months after their return, a period of time where 3 building representative meetings were held, the Society Hill Towers Homeowners Association, with 4 absentees, voted to enforce the adults-only provision against the plaintiff, Mrs. Joseph, purely a case of arbitrary discrimination. The plaintiff will show that this is arbitrary discrimination because the provision is not related to protecting the health, safety, economic, or general welfare. As witnesses Darlene Kennedy and Annette Joseph will show that costs and crime have increased as the towers changed in 1977. Mrs. Joseph will show that this is arbitrary discrimination because it causes harm to the public interest. It does not allow families to permit their children to have the right to live in the environment of their choice. Last but not least, we will show that the distinction is arbitrary discrimination since it causes an unreasonable hardship for the tenants affected by the provision. Your Honor, if you find in favor of the defendant, Annette Joseph's daughter, Frances, and her grandson, Eddie, will have to go in search of housing elsewhere in a market where apartments that allow children is scarce. Based on our evidence, we are sure that you will find in favor of our client, Annette Joseph. Thank you.
May it please the court. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel. My name is Robin Martin, and my colleagues are Miss Ann Hudock and Mr. William Duber. Together we represent Society Hill Towers Homeowners Association, a licensed business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We will call the following witnesses to the stand. First, we will call Ms. Juanita Price, who is president of the Homeowners Association. Secondly, we will call Ms. Janet Hook, who is the budget and sales operator for Society Hill Towers and chief executive and owner of Holt Realtors. The principal issue in this case is whether or not Society Hill Towers has had the right to adopt and enforce an adult-only provision within their bylaws and subsequent deeds provided to each individual homeowner. We will call Juanita Price, the president of the Homeowners Association since 1980. D&G Developers, who converted Society Hill Towers to condominiums in 1977, does in fact include a copy of the adult-only clause in each individual deed. This clause states that no children shall be permitted to reside in Society Hill Towers as of January 1st, 1977. And as a concession to present homeowners, any child presently living in Society Hill Towers may continue to do so. D&G Developers made this change to adults only to number 1, make a child-free environment for those who wished it. Number 2, to increase the property value. Number 3, to create facilities for adults only. And as a result of Pennsylvania law, if a child was injured at these adults-only facilities, all homeowners would be responsible for any injury and raising money for liabilities for that injury. Ms. Price will also state that in regards to the adults-only provision, that the Josephs did sign and therefore agreed to the adults-only provision. Through Ms. Price, we will learn that the representatives, officers, and homeowners are responsible for enforcing the rules of the association. Also, that prior to the purchase of the condominium, each potential homeowner is made aware of the following rights, restrictions, and responsibilities. Number 1, each owner must join the association. Number 2, each owner must agree to abide by all Society Hill Towers rules and regulations. Number 3, each owner must pay association dues. Number 4, each member may take part in the selection of a building representative from which of the building they reside. And number 5, each owner has a vote in the changing of rules and ownership for Society Hill Towers. Ms. Joseph did in fact meet all these requirements. Ms. Price will state that there was a meeting of the building representatives on October 15th, and that there was a complaint brought to the attention of the homeowners. That complaint was that the Josephs were in violation of their deed, the adults-only clause. There was no action taken in the previous past months, where the homeowners decided to allow a grace period. They felt that the representatives felt that 10 months allowed was enough time for the Josephs to get back on their feet. Therefore, they served them with a notice stating they must remedy the situation within 90 days or move out. In further contact to Lauren Miller, she then received a notice stating, "Give me a break." Through our second witness, Ms. Cook, we will establish that in her expert opinion, the adults-only complex has many benefits. And from her 2 dozen studies that she has made on adults-only complexes, these benefits include, number 1, an increase of sales price of units. Number 2, a decrease in management costs. Number 3, a decrease in operating and repairs costs. And number 4, a decline in insurance for Society Hill Towers. Ms. Hook will show from her studies between 1975 and 1984 The changes in spending of homeowners' money is in fact a benefit that the homeowners want, for they have bought these condominiums for their high property value and their child-free environment in which they create. Therefore, the fact that less money is spent on insurance and more is spent on recreation for the adults-only facilities is a benefit that they all want. Ms. Hope will further state that she is willing to help the Pescos with her professional services at no cost to find them a place to reside in. The adults-only clause satisfies the three-pronged test, so therefore it is not arbitrary discrimination. For number one, it does not hurt the health, safety, economic, or general welfare of the Pescos or Josephs in any unreasonable way. Number two, it does not cause unreasonable hardship to either party either. Number three, it does not cause unreasonable harm to the public. It is evident that there is help available for the Pescos in more than one way. The Josephs should be not permitted to continue residing in Society Hill Towers if they choose to live with their daughter and grandson. The Josephs, as members of the Homeowners Association, did agree on the adults-only provisions by signing their deed. And Edward, in concession to this, did not reside in Society Hill Towers as of January 1st, 1977, the stated date for the adults-only provision. And Frances, in regards to the concession, did not live in a continuing residency, for she moved away when she was married. Therefore, they are both in violation of the deed. We agree that the circumstances are regrettable, for there has been a death, but it is evident that there is help for the tragic loss of Miss Pesco and her son. Thank you.
Please call the first witness. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Mrs. Annette Justice for witness.
You raise your right hand. For the purpose of this action, you may consider yourself sworn, and if you are sworn to tell the truth, you may proceed.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Just so that she can hear me as I question her. Good evening.
Good evening.
Would you state your full name for the court, please?
Mrs. Annette Joseph,
And where do you live, Mrs. Joseph?
building 4519 3A.
Is that in Society Hill Towers?
Yes, it is.
Whom do you live with right now?
My husband, my daughter Frances, and my grandson Edward.
And how long have you lived with all of them?
Fran and Edward have been back with us for 10 months now. Sorry.
Could you explain why you brought suit against Society Hill Towers?
Yes. We received notice saying that we were in violation of our deed, and we don't feel we are because we were told that it didn't apply to people like us.
Tell me, Mrs. Joseph, what was your relationship with Juanita Price?
She was friends with Frances when they were growing up, so I knew her when she was a child. She was a friend of ours, but I really don't think she is any longer.
Are there any hostile feelings between you and Miss Price?
No.
Your Honor, I object on the grounds that this is irrelevant.
I just wanted to prove that my client did not take action against Society Hill Towers out of spite or as a grudge.
Your Honor, by establishing the relationship between Miss Joseph and Miss Price, it does seem that she is trying to show that there is bias.
I'm going to suspend it.
Thank you. Tell me, Mrs. Joseph, when did Society Hill Towers change to a condominium residence?
1977.
When it changed, did you sign a deed?
Yes, I did.
And what did this deed say?
It stated that no one under 21 years of age may reside in Society Hill Towers unless they had been living there prior to January 1st, 1977, which we were.
Why did you sign this deed?
We were told it didn't apply to people like us.
Mrs. Joseph, could you tell the court why your daughter Frances returned to Society Hill Towers?
Yes. On New Year's Eve of 1983, her husband was coming home and he was hit head-on by drunk driver and he was killed.
Your Honor, I object. This is also irrelevant. The drunk driver has nothing to do with this.
She was just explaining what happened.
Well, I know that, and I know that you wanted to say that, but what's the relevance of it? What is the relevance of it to this lawsuit as to how it has been?
No, I honestly cannot think of anyone who's Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain the objection, but also indicate that the answer has already been given, so the answer is already on the record. So sustain the objection in that sense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Couldn't your daughter just stay where she was?
How could she? She's a high school dropout. She doesn't have any money, and she can't get a job, and she has a son.
Have you discussed Fran and Edward's living with your neighbors?
Yes, I have.
Did all of those whom you spoke with say that the situation was all right?
All but one,
And who was that one?
Laura Miller.
Who is Lauren Miller?
She's our building representative.
Mrs. Joseph, have you noticed any changes in crime since the change to condominiums?
No, I personally feel that if it hasn't remained the same, it's gotten worse. My car was stolen, and I know of other people's whose car were also stolen.
Now, earlier in your testimony, you said that Fran and Edward had been living with you for 10 months. Were you contacted by the representatives during this time about this matter?
No, it wasn't after the 10-month period.
It was not in that 10-month period?
No.
Would you care for Fran and Edward to live with you?
What mother wouldn't want her own flesh and blood to remain living with her? Yes, I want them there.
And then would you care to move if the situation occurred?
It's my home. I want to stay in my home.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mrs. Joseph, isn't it true that when you signed your deed, you were aware of the adults-only provision?
We were told it didn't apply to us, but yes, we were aware of it.
And isn't it also true that by signing your deed, you agreed to the adults-only provision?
We were told it didn't apply to us
And you did sign the deed, correct?
because we were sure that it didn't apply to us.
Were you advised that this deed did not bar the continuing residence of your daughter Frances?
Yes.
And did Frances ever move out since January 1st of 1977?
Yes, she did.
And why did Frances move out?
Because she got married.
Did she do this of her own free will, Mrs. Joseph?
Objection, Your Honor. The question is irrelevant to the case.
Your Honor, we feel it's very relevant. We're trying to show that Frances moved out of her own free will, and in doing so, she surrendered her right to residency at Society Hill. She surrendered her right to protection under the clause which guaranteed her continual residency. She's not living there continuously since January 1 of 77. It's a very important point to our case, Your Honor.
We feel, however, that the marriage of the daughter has no relevancy to the...
The question was whether she moved out voluntarily. I don't know if you got beyond that. Although we will be objecting.
Did Frances move out of her own free will, Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
And isn't it true that she moved... Oh, excuse me. So her residence was not a continual one, is that correct? And therefore, it was not protected under the guidelines in the deed, correct?
Yes.
When Frances moved back to Philadelphia, Mrs. Joseph, you admitted her, didn't you? You readmitted her to your residency?
Of course, I'm her mother.
And you did this of your own free will also, correct?
Yes, I did it out of love for my daughter.
Did you admit Edward Pesco?
Yes. What was I supposed to do? Let him remain on his own?
How old is Edward, Mrs. Joseph?
A year and a half.
Does not the prohibition in the deed exempt those persons and those persons alone who are living at Society Hill Towers as of January 1, 1977?
Yes, it does.
And isn't it not true that Edward was not living there? In fact, Edward was not even alive as of January 1, 1977.
That is correct.
When it appeared that Frances Nell would be living with you for some time, isn't it correct that you checked with your neighbors to see if it would be all right?
Objection, Your Honor. The question has already been asked and answered in direct examination.
Council's not really.
I'm quite aware of that. I was trying to re-emphasize the point which you're about to make.
Council has the right to make that point. I overruled it.
When it appeared that Francis and Edward would be living with you for some time, Mrs. Joseph, you readmitted them, didn't you? I mean, you checked with the other building, the other persons in your building, correct?
Yes.
And were there any objections?
One.
That would be Lauren Miller, correct?
Excuse me, Your Honor. Can our witness have a few minutes to compose herself, please?
Your Honor, if the witness is recomposed, I'd like to continue this as taking up the cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mrs. Joseph, how many buildings are there at Society Hill Towers?
I don't know offhand.
Isn't it true there are 20 buildings at Society Hill Towers?
Yes.
And so you neglected to check with the residents of the other 19 buildings, correct, Mrs. Joseph?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. The question is beyond the scope of direct examination.
Would you repeat the question, please?
You neglected to check with the residents of the other 19. It is within the scope because plaintiff showed that Mrs. Joseph checked with the residents in her building. We're trying to establish here that Mrs. Joseph ignored a basic, she was trying to change the rules of the complex by allowing her...
No, you testify.
Sorry.
Give us your response as to why it's within the scope.
It's within the scope because they brought up the fact that she checked with persons in her own building. And therefore, we're trying to establish the fact that in ignoring the other residents, it's very important. That's why we need to bring it up.
But it's important to that is not the issue. It's whether
It was within the scope because, Your Honor, the plaintiff has already brought up the fact that Mrs. Joseph has checked with the other residents.
overruling the objection to the other question.
You neglected the other 19, correct?
Yes.
And you neglected to check with the other 456 residents of Society Hill Towers, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware, Mrs. Joseph, that in order to effect a change in the general rules of residency among the homeowners, this change must be approved unanimously by the homeowners?
Yes.
And you did not receive unanimous approval at Society Hill Towers, did you not, Mrs. Joseph?
Excuse me?
You didn't receive that unanimous approval, did you?
No, I
In
didn't.
fact, you didn't even receive unanimous approval in your own building, did you?
No.
Have you made any attempts to find Francis and Edward at home?
Yes, we have.
Would this include checking with the classified section of your newspaper?
We've tried every source.
Even realtors, Mrs. Joseph?
Fran can't afford a realtor.
You did not check with the realtor.
Objection, Your Honor. This questioning is again beyond the scope of direct examination.
Since the plan showed in direct examination that Mrs. Joseph did attempt to find housing, we feel it's indeed within the scope to ask her what sources she checked with. You didn't check with the realtor, correct?
Excuse me?
You did not check with the realtor, correct, Mrs. Joseph?
Correct.
In your attempts to find housing, did you find any that would be willing to admit children at all?
Certainly there are ones that will admit children, but none that Fran can afford.
Did you receive a notice, Mrs. Joseph, from the Homeowners Association on October 20th?
Yes.
And was this note in reference to the October 15th meeting, Mrs. Joseph?
Yes, it was.
And was the content of this note such asking you to amend the situation you're in violation of?
Yes.
Did you send a note to Lauren Miller on October 22nd, Mrs. Joseph?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. The question is again beyond the scope of direct examination.
Mrs. Joseph, the plaintiff brought up the fact that she had received the note and that she was definitely aware of the action brought against her. She would not have brought this lawsuit to court. Therefore, it's within the scope.
However, the question of a response to the note was never brought out in direct examination.
We feel that since
So the issue of the note was brought up, so whether there was a response or not
was the content of this note such asking you to amend the situation you were in violation of, Mrs. Joseph?
The note that I received?
Yes, Mrs. Joseph.
Yes.
After sending a note to the Homeowners Association on October 22nd, has there been any formal correspondence between yourself and the association?
No, not really.
Getting back to the note you sent just for one moment here. Wasn't the exact and the complete wording of that note to give me a break?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor, we would like to call Mrs. Starling Kennedy to stand. Good evening, Ms. Kennedy. How are you this evening?
Fine.
Will you please state your full name officially for the record?
Yeah, Miss Darlene Kennedy.
Ms. Kennedy, can you give us some information on your educational background?
Yes, I received my BA in Sociology and Economics at, Dickinson College, and I also received my master's degree and my PhD at Temple University and my MBA at Wharton School of Business.
Are you presently employed?
Yes, I am.
And what is your profession?
I'm an economic professor at Penn State University.
What is your primary field of study?
Economics and with a concentration in housing market and contemporary trend, in housing sales and rentals.
How long have you been employed?
For the past 24 years, sir?
Have you ever written any books relevant to your field of study?
Yes. In 1983, I wrote a book titled Age Discrimination in Housing, Subverting Our Traditional Values.
And what studies have you conducted?
Well, in 1980, I conducted a study in housing vacancy rate in the U.S. In 1984, I conducted another study in housing discrimination in the Philadelphia area.
Your Honor, based on the experience, education, and knowledgeability of this witness, we would like to submit her to the court as an expert in the field of housing with a concentration in housing markets and contemporary trends in that market.
No objections, Your Honor. Witness will be permitted to testify as an expert in the record.
In the 1980 study of vacancy rates that you mentioned, Ms. Kennedy, what were your findings?
Well, in the vacancy rate, I found that 1% is actually, that the vacancy rate is actually 1% lower in the Philadelphia area, and that 76% of all anti-child restriction, that 76% of housing has some form of anti-child restriction laws.
Based on your studies, knowledgeability, and experience in the housing field, do you have a professional opinion regarding the availability of housing for an unemployed widow with an 18-month-old child?
I feel a woman of such position will have little or no chance of finding any adequate housing.
What is the basis for that opinion?
Well, since she is unemployed, she's a widow, and she has no credentials as a possible tenant, plus she has a son. And as I mentioned earlier, 76% of all housing has some form of anti-child restriction, and her unemployed parent status would make it almost impossible for her to find any type of housing.
I see. Ms. Kennedy, are you familiar with the impact of anti-child restrictions on property values or maintenance costs?
In all my years, I have never seen any evidence showing anti-restriction showing that property values will increase or that the maintenance costs will decrease.
I see. Your Honor, we request that this document be marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 for identification.
We have a copy, thank you anyway.
That's some water.
Ms. Kennedy, can you identify this document to the court?
Yes, it's a study that I prepared. What it is, it shows that Society Hill's operating expense in 1975 as to 1984.
Can you explain the document?
Yeah, what it shows is that administration in the year 1975 was $6,600, and that in 1984 it has gone up to $46,800, which was a 700% increase. And maintenance in 1975 was $13,800, and it also has gone up in the year 1984 to $46,800. And assurance was $23,400 in the year 1975, and it also has gone up to $43,200 in 1984. And recreation was $2,400. In 1984, it has gone up to $21,600, which was a 1,000% increase. And in 1975 again, in repairs, it was $13,200. In 1984, it was $19,800. And miscellaneous expense was $600 in 1975. And in 1984, it was $1,800.
Ms. Kennedy, based upon that document, what has been the overall effect on the cost of living at Society Hill Towers?
Excuse me. That the cost has increased a triple amount.
The cost has increased how much?
300%, which has tripled it.
Oh, okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor. Ms. Kennedy, isn't it true that Andy Pesco's mother called you personally and asked you to look out for her daughter-in-law and her
Objection, Your
grandson?
Honor. The question is beyond the scope of direct examination.
Your Honor, we'd like to show that Ms. Kennedy here would have bias towards our as a defendant, would have bias toward us. So isn't it true that Andy Pesco's mother called you personally and asked you to look out for her daughter-in-law and grandson?
Yes, he did. Yes, she did. Go ahead.
Is it not also true that you offered to assist Mrs. Pesco in any way you could?
Yes, I said I would help her, but I will not perjure myself in court.
But it is true that you offered to assist her in any way?
Yes, but as I said, I won't perjure myself.
Isn't it true that Andy Pesco was a student of yours at Penn State University?
Yes, he was.
So you consider yourself personally involved or acquainted with the Pescos, do you not?
Well, I just known him as a student. That was like 7 years ago,
So that is personally involved, do you not?
if you want to call it that.
Did you know that the deeds of Society Hill Towers had an adult-only provision included in them? And did you know that the homeowners must agree to all provisions of Society Hill Towers for their purchase?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the Josephs agreed to the adult-only provision previously?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to refer to the plaintiff's exhibit.
Yeah, I have one.
Are you aware that Society Hill Towers has expanded its facilities since your percentage studies that you did approximately 1 year ago?
Your Honor, we object. Witness is being non-responsive. We would ask the witness to please acknowledge verbally her response, please.
The record is the court started when you're sitting down here and we don't hear it, is unable to pick up the noise.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Kennedy, are you aware that Society Hill Towers has expanded its facilities since your percentage studies done approximately 1 year ago?
Objection, Your Honor. The question is beyond the scope of direct examination.
Your Honor, this witness is an expert in the field of economics and has studied the adults-only provision and has done economic studies for the adults-only and Society Hill Towers.
However, she has not been personally involved with the finances of Society Hill Towers, other than the study we mentioned.
The studies included the adults-only provision, therefore she would know that there has been facilities added to it.
However, the expansion is not covered on the document that she
Look at your chart, Dr. Kennedy. I see that there are no allowances for inflation. Is that correct?
Yes, but inflation is included along with it.
Ms. Kennedy, does it state that on your chart that inflation is included?
But as I said, it is included, but yes, it is.
So these costs were prepared over a period of 9 years. Is that not correct?
Yes.
So isn't it true that as Society Hill Towers would increase its facilities and its physical plant, that administration would naturally go up, and maintenance would go up, insurance would go up, recreational staff would go up, and repairs would go up? Isn't that not true that that would naturally happen in a normal economy?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Did you want this?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would like to call Miss Juanita Price to the stand.
Juanita Price.
For the purposes of this matter this evening, you consider yourself sworn and that you're sworn to tell the truth.
Please state your name and place of residency for the court.
Juanita Price, I reside at 4501 1A in Society Hill Towers.
What is your current occupation, Ms. Price?
Right now, I am president of the Homeowners Association.
How long have you held this position with the Homeowners Association?
Since 1980, when I replaced my father, the late Dr. Claude Price.
Could you please tell the court who D&G developers are?
D&G developers are the people who first constructed Society Hill Towers in 1956 when they were only apartments, and they're the people who made them into condominiums in 1977.
As of January 1st, 1977, what decision did D&G builders make in regards to Society Hill Towers?
That Society Hill Towers would be an adult-only condominium complex.
And for what reasons did D&G developers decide to convert to condominiums?
They wanted to create a child-free environment for those who wish to live in one. They wanted to create facilities for adults only, and they wanted to increase the property value.
What facilities are available now in Society Hill Towers for adults only?
Currently, there are 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools, one, which I may add, is not enclosed. There is one fitness center containing universal and free weights, and one sauna bath.
What type of supervision is available at these facilities for the adults?
Well, at the swimming pools, they're supervised from 12 to 4 o'clock on the weekends, and the fitness center is supervised from 7 to 9 o'clock in the evenings.
So in other words, Ms. Price, there are times when these facilities are not supervised?
Yes, most of the time the facilities aren't supervised.
Are there any facilities at Society Hill Towers specifically for children?
No, there are none specifically for children.
And who would be responsible should a child wander into these facilities and become injured?
The homeowners would be liable for any injuries sustained to a child.
How would the money be raised to pay for these types of liabilities?
First of all, the Homeowners Association dues would go up and the insurance would also go up.
In regards to the conversion, Ms. Price, what conditions were included in the owner's deeds?
That all the homeowners had to join the Homeowners Association. They took part in choosing a representative from their respective buildings, and they also, they set the rules and regulations for Society Hill Towers.
Ms. Price, did the Josephs sign the deed and therefore agree to the adult supervision?
Yes, they did.
Would you please identify for the court what organization has a responsibility for enforcing the rules of the big complex?
The Homeowners Association.
And could you please explain to the court who makes up the Homeowners Association?
The Homeowners Association is made up of all those persons owning a unit in Society Hill Towers.
Who handles the day-to-day activities of the association?
Well, I, as the president, along with my officers and the representatives from the building.
How are these building representatives that you just spoke of, how are they chosen?
There are 20 buildings in Society Hill Towers, and there are 24 units per each building. Each person owning a unit has the right to cast a vote in who they wish their representative to be, and the representatives are from their respective buildings.
Once chosen, what types of jobs do these representatives perform?
They tend mostly to paying bills, maintenance tasks, supervision staffs, and things like that.
Do they have any type of enforcement power?
They can't change or alter the rules or regulations in any way, but they can enforce a specific law against a specific homeowner.
I see. What types of enforcement would this include?
Such as this going on right now with the Joseph family. They can enforce the adult-only provision against them.
Was there a meeting of the building representatives on October 15, 1985?
Yes, there was.
What was the purpose of this meeting, Ms. Price?
It was a usual representative meeting. They discussed paying bills, maintenance, such as that.
Were there any complaints brought up on October 15?
Yes, it was brought to our attention by Lauren Miller, the building representative from 4519, that's the Joseph's building, that Annette Joseph's daughter and her grandson were living in violation of the under 21 deed.
Could you please explain to the court what you mean when you say in violation of this deed?
Well, Frances herself is under the age of 21, and she did not have a continuing residence, and therefore that broke that provision in the deed. And her son Edward is only 1.5, and he obviously is under the age of 21.
How long had the Pescos been residing with the Josephs prior to the October 15th date?
About 10 months.
Did you or the association take any action against the Pescos or the Josephs prior to October 15th?
No, we did not. We wanted to give them enough time to find Frances and her son a place to live.
Why didn't you, as president of the Homeowners Association, take any action?
Well, I can understand what she is going through. She's lost her husband, and we wanted to give her enough time to find a decent place to live. We knew that was the only place she really had to go.
I see. What decision was made at the October 15th meeting?
To serve the Josephs with a notice, stating they had 90 days to remedy the situation.
So including this 90-day grace period, How long have the Pescos been residing with the Josephs?
They have been living there over a year and a half. The 10 months plus the 90 days equals about a year, or over a year, I'm sorry.
Was there any further discussion on the Josephs after the October 15th decision?
Yes, the representatives and myself discussed the possibility of helping Frances and her son a place to live, and we decided that we would want to do that.
If you were to carry through this plan, whose services would you have used?
Janet Hook of Hook Realtors.
And what would the cost of the service be to Miss Pesco?
Miss Pesco, there would be no cost. Janet Hook is kept on a retainer basis at Society Hill Towers for $7,500 a year.
How and when were the Josephs notified of the October 15th decision of their homeowners?
On October 20th, their building representative, Lauren Miller, took the notice to them.
Since October 20th, have you or any other representative of the association been contacted by the Josephs or the Pescos?
Yes, Mrs. Joseph called me and asked me if this was a joke, and I told her no, that it wasn't, that rules were rules and they had to be followed, but we understood what she was going through. And also,